Where I think it gets really interesting is the understanding that these are very, very early models. And so what comes next with them is, I think, an important discussion, especially around the idea that they're only going to get better. So if we're already seeing this level of capacity and power with them now, in a year, 5 years, 10 years, they will ultimately become perfect.
What are your thoughts and feelings about AI and where it's going?
First, I think we need to be really rational about where we are with the technology. So, I feel like people are connecting Hollywood narratives and sci-fi narratives to technology and some anthropomorphism, giving real human qualities to this technology. And I don't think we're there yet. So the first thing I just think is, like, everyone needs to take a big deep breath, calm down, reground, get out of the fear, and accept the fact that yes, the disrupt has happened, but it's not in the way that everyone is currently saying. Large language models, which is the consumer facing AI, is very new for us to interact with, and it seems very incredibly powerful because of how important language is to humanity. So I don't think people pay a lot of attention to it, but language underpins every social structure that we have, or every social institution and every culture. So language is like a rich tapestry. It could be a mathematical language, scientific language, spoken language like English, cultural symbolism language and the clothes that people wear, etc. But language is what's tying together humanity. And the consumer-facing side of AI and these large language models is targeted directly at language. I think in the last years, people have taken language just for granted. It's just something that they're using all the time. They're chatting with it on the phones, but they're not really paying attention to it as such a fundamental or important tool. And in the digital era, what digitization ultimately did was create a universal language for all languages. So you could take any language, you could turn it into ones and zeros, and you could create another symbol for it that could work with another language that had been ultimately transliterated into ones and zeros. And so these large language models are targeting right there, which is something that's so personal to us that I think it seems like a bigger aspect of a disrupt right now than where it is. It seems like it's intelligent. It seems like the AI is speaking for itself, but it'll take time still to know if that's actually true.
One of the things that I've been considering around, one of the ways that AI could be used as part of a spiritual practice is to outsource some of the things where it pulls us away from that.
I think it's fundamental that it can be used. I created a project called GodAI.ai, and the purpose of it is to create personalized AI chatbots that are trained to be different kinds of religious figures or spiritual teachers. And so there's priest, there's a priestess, there's a shaman, there's a guru, there's a Zen monk, etc. And the AIs are trained on, every kind of language you can imagine, from just, normal speech to technical speak to spiritual and religious speak. And I agree with you that they can be used to provide an incredible amount of access to information that we just didn't have before, or it wasn't very easy to ultimately access. And yes, you can also push a lot of the tasks that would either be more difficult for you with language or something that's just not your expertise in this highly specialized world to these tools, and use them to increase productivity or increase your communicative capacity. And I think that is the early positive use case associated with this, whether it's in spiritual practices or whether it's for running a small business or, just being able to communicate with greater clarity. I think all of those are the positive uses. Where I think it gets really interesting is the understanding that these are very, very early models. And so what comes next with them is, I think, an important discussion, especially around the idea that they're only going to get better. So if we're already seeing this level of capacity and power with them now, in a year, 5 years, 10 years, they will ultimately become perfect. And that will have a tremendous impact on how we as a society communicate, how we use language, how we approach concepts that would be difficult for us. Like if you're using the AI to give you a breakdown or a summary or an understanding, etc. And I've heard many theories about what can come next, but I think at that point, we're really just touching upon, okay, this is why it's a disrupt. And there will be many positive use cases. And I think what we need to focus on is how we maintain a positive use of this technology, because it's not going anywhere.
Do you have an idea of what you imagine it will become over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think that supporting exploration of what this becomes is very important, because a lot of the people who are creating it simply are not looking at that. They're saying they just don't know. There are too many event horizons. So they've been able to create the technology to this point. Um, it's been a multi-decade process. So I think that's also important to understand, that we've all been interacting with AI indirectly for over 15 years, and we're only now starting to interact with it directly. But that gives us a trajectory of an understanding of where it's going. And there's a lot of prophecy about it. And so, AGI is what I think most people think of when they think of AI because of stories and sci-fi. And AGI is augmented general intelligence. And it's when the neural nets or these artificial intelligence gain real autonomy. They gain real personal capacities. And from that moment, they are more intelligent in a demonstrable way than humans.